I'm recording, by the way.
Probably just how to use the one we were talking about, command, and how to utilize the tools that we have, because I was with KW before, left and came back, and we did not have command. We did not have DocuSign or zip forms. So for me, I'm relearning, that part of it. And that's my biggest challenge is learning the systems.
Who else has an aha that they've gotten from the class so far?
I think from yesterday's, yesterday, I think it was Donna that was mentioning doing the net sheet every time an offer came in, which I thought was great.
I love it. All right. So at the end of tonight, I'm going to ask everybody an aha from the class. So I'm warning you ahead of time, so you can't say, I didn't know. Everybody's going to give an aha. We're going to go speed style at the end of the class, because I find that I often learn more from what others in the class hear than even the instructor. So I want to pay that forward to you all as well. So let me get to the correct, oh, sorry, hang on. Let me share screen. I think this is the right one, but if it's not, then please forgive me while I find oh, hang on. I opened up my presentation and then it disappeared. There we go. Start over on that. Can you all see the presentation now? Yes. Okay, good. All right. So Ignite contract to close. We're going to go over a whole bunch tonight. And one of the things that I want to just be crystal clear on is that none of what I am going to talk about matters if you don't lead generate. Sharon's in my office. Sharon, how passionate am I about lead generation?
She's very passionate about that. Very.
How often do we lead generate together?
Every morning from 9:30.
Every morning.
From 9:30 to 11. And you better be on time.
You better be on time or I'm going to roast your ass. She knows. I will get questions all of the time from people who will say, okay, what do I do with a home inspection? Like, okay, great. Well, show me your home inspection. And they say, well, I don't have a home inspection. Like what? Well, when is it scheduled? Is it scheduled? No, I don't have a buyer. Okay. Who cares about a home inspection if you don't have a buyer or a seller? I'm just going to be straight up that after this class, if your thought is, wow, that sounds really fascinating and I want to learn more about contract to close, and you go out from here and you start studying contract to close, but you don't lead generate, it doesn't matter, because you're never going to have a buyer or seller. And buyers or sellers are who you do home inspections with. So this industry, the barriers to entry are not that high. You spend more time in cosmetology school than you do in real estate school. And I will tell you that I've been at this long enough. I've recruited a lot of people and I've seen a lot of people get out of the business. And it's almost always the difference between the people who are successful and the people who deactivate their license is lead generation. It's always lead generation. So that, there we go.
Sorry, I just want to pause for a second. Some of us don't have the materials. Is there any way that you could put them in the chat?
Let me see if I can find them. That is a good the participant materials here. There we go. Let me know if everybody got that. Okay. All right, so tonight we're going to we are going to focus on negotiating contracts, transaction management to closing, vendor management, compliance, and risk management. That's a sexy topic. So let me ask you this. You all have had a couple of classes. I know that there was a how much have you guys dove into negotiating a deal? Don't all answer at once. I'm gonna stop share so I can see more faces.
What was the question again? How many?
Negotiating, making an offer and negotiating. How comfortable do you guys feel like you are on that?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm old.
Gwendolyn, what do you think?
Comfortable.
You're comfortable on that?
No,
No, not comfortable?
no. I think once I do it, I'll become more comfortable, but just, listening to it and doing little, examples is still not enough for me. I'm more hands-on. I have to see it in action.
Sure. So I would make a couple of suggestions that you pick, if you don't have a buyer, because most new agents start with buyers. And right now, buyers are more complicated, they're more complicated. Oh, so Candace says not comfortable. That's why we're not lead generating. I tell people all the time, they're like, well, I need to know what to say when I set an appointment. I'm like, no, you don't. You do not need to know what to say to set an appointment. What you need to do is set the appointment for far enough out that you can get somebody to help you. All of you are with KWs. If you're not, welcome. And you could, hopefully you've got somebody who is the person who will answer your phone call. But I will tell you this, when somebody calls me and says, I have a buyer meeting me tomorrow at 2, what do I say? I will find time to help them, or I will find somebody who can find time to help them. But when it's I need to learn what to say to a buyer, but you have no buyer, that takes the sense of urgency of the people who are more than happy to teach you. It lowers that sense of urgency because they don't have, when you're juggling a lot of balls and it's hey, I've scheduled this meeting, but our culture is absolutely sharing. And I know in our office, if you said, I've got an appointment set, I need somebody, can somebody go with me? We could find somebody to go with you if you needed it, and we can coach you through what to say. Same thing goes with an offer. You show a house to a buyer and you feel like, I want to make an offer on this, but I don't know how to make this a competitive offer. There's so many people you can ask. Again, different offices, it's going to be different folks, but there's so many people who are more than happy to come alongside you. Lots of people came alongside us and held our hands and helped us through, and we're happy to pay it forward. However, contract to close actually starts at the consult. And I think that's part that a lot of people miss. And that's why I kind of wanted to rewind. It starts at the consult with setting expectations with your client. Like, for example, are we in a market where somebody can make an offer as a buyer and say, I have to sell that's not on the market yet and have a snowball's chance in hell of getting the contract? No, it's just not happening. It's not going to happen. It hasn't happened in a while, and it probably won't happen in a while. That's about setting expectations with the client of what type of a market we're in. If you set expectations earlier, it's going to help them to make a stronger offer later. So let's say it's somebody who needs to sell in order to, or they're going to buy and sell. What most people want to do is they want to find the house that they're going to buy and then sell their house, but not sell their house if they haven't found something, but they want the two to coincide. What I would do is saying to them right away, all right, so right now we need to get to the bottom of one of two fears. There's two fears that face everyone who is both buying and selling. Fear number one is fear of being homeless. Fear number two is fear of having 2 mortgages. If you are going to choose one fear, which fear would you choose? Gwendolyn, which fear would you choose?
I would say homelessness, because I know I wouldn't be homeless because I would go stay with friends or family members until I had the deal, closed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And everybody, what about you, Robert? Robert, would you homelessness or having two mortgages?
I'd rather have two mortgages.
Rather have two mortgages. So it's different. It's not our job to decide what our clients want. It's our job to give them their options. Now, so Gwendolyn, she's got plan B. Ideal situation is in her scenario, we put her house on the market, we get it under contract, 45-day close, 60-day rent back, work on finding her a house. Fingers crossed, we'll find something. She'll move in. She'll be fine. And if that doesn't happen in this crazy market, she's got a backup plan. For Robert, he would rather carry two mortgages. He's saying, I'm willing to risk buying a house and then putting my house on the market. Now, part of the key is we need to talk with a lender and make sure Robert can actually do that. Is he approved to carry two mortgages? He might not be. So he might prefer that, but he might not be able to do it. There's factors there too, but with Gwendolyn, I don't even need to worry about can she carry two mortgages, because she's not going to. But what that does though is I've given them two choices: homelessness or two mortgages. What you didn't hear is let's make a contingent offer, because those things are about as old as a rotary phone at this point. Contingent offers don't happen. So part of it starts at the consult with expectations of where are we and where we are in the market. And then when you make an offer, you have to, again, ask somebody for help with that. We are a team sport. I like to describe working at a KW brokerage as baseball. Who watches baseball? Anybody? You guys hear the lockout ended? They have come to a collective bargaining agreement. So we will have baseball. You're watching a baseball game. You're watching the Orioles lose to the Yankees probably. And they're out in the field. You got the shortstop, you got the pitcher, you got the outfield, you got the catcher. Pitcher throws a wild pitch, catcher goes to get it, pitcher runs to home plate. They're all playing together. All of them are playing together. That's what it'll be. That's what it should be like for you when you go to make an offer or you're working with a client. You've got a lot of resources of people who are willing to help, and chances are high you're paying for those resources, so you should use them. And when you're up to bat, it's a solo sport, and up to bat is lead generation. No one's going to swing that bat for you, and nobody's going to pick up the phone for you. So the lead generation, that's the solo sport. But when it comes to making an offer, so there's lots of ways to make an offer stronger. There's the going above list price, appraisal gap addendums. What are you doing with inspections? Is it as is? What are you waiving? Are you paying the seller's closing and recordation costs? We could dive into all of those things, and each offer is different. It's kind of like that home inspection where I said, people ask me what to do with a home inspection. Charity, have you ever played a sport? Yeah. What sport?
Well, I was actually a figure skater.
You were a figure skater. Damn, girl, that's awesome. So let me ask you this. The Olympics were just on, and I watched some figure skating. How much did I learn about figure skating by watching it?
Barely little.
Very little. All right. What about if I watched some YouTube instructional videos? How much did I learn about figure skating from YouTube instructional videos?
It could be a little bit.
A little bit? Okay. I get out on the ice with you. How much am I going to learn that?
A lot more.
A lot more. The thing is, you got to get out on the ice, people. You got to get out on the ice. You're going to screw it up. Like, let's just put that out there right now. You're going to screw it up. And I can tell you all the stories about the things that I've screwed up. Sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. And if you're so afraid of screwing something up, this industry might not be for you. You got to get out on the ice. You're going to fall on your ass over and over and over and over again. And then one day you're not. And you're going to realize that you've learned everything that you've been learning is piling on top of it. But what I hear from a lot of people in these classes is they come here and they say, let's talk about contract to close. And I'll ask, well, how many buyers or sellers? This is a real example. I had somebody say to me once, I want to learn how to do everything before I get any buyers or sellers. Do you think he is still in the real estate market? No. Because at the end of the day, you got to get out on the ice and you got to be willing to fall on your butt. So if you're not lead generating, you may as well get off this Zoom and go lead generate, because learning about contract to close before you've got to buy, when you don't have any efforts to get buyers and sellers, that's what are you gonna do? If you waive home inspections, then your offer might get accepted in competing bid situations. So I would never advise my client to waive home inspections. They can, and that it is our job in general to give our clients information. It is their job to make choices. We control the process, they control the choices. So let's say you have a buyer who's up against 27 other offers and they want to know all of the things that they can do in order to make their offer stronger. With inspections, the order of, first of all, you also want to call the other agent and ask them the question of what's most important to the seller. Because they might say, yeah, if there's something major wrong, the sellers will repair it, but they would rather have a rent back for 90 days or whatever it is. It's finding out from the other agent what the terms are. But yes, if you waive inspections, there are certainly times that will get you the offer, because what you know then is that the seller, the listing agent is trying to mitigate the risk for their seller. So risk comes with times that you can release from the contract on a contingency. Home inspection, financing, HOA docs, there's a whole bunch of different times that you can release from the contract. If you eliminate those times, the risk for the seller that it's not going to close goes way down. So yes, your offer might seem more advantageous to a seller if you are waiving inspections. You also need to advise your buyers that if what they are waiving, like the for your protection, get a home inspection document that we're supposed to give out, making sure that they've received that and they understand why we do suggest that they get a home inspection. All right, I feel like I just sat on a soapbox for a while, and I'm going to get back to the content if that's all right with you. Okay. All right, okay, so we'll focus on today is negotiating contracts, transaction management, vendor management, compliance, and risk management. Okay, so let's get going. Okay, so we're going to talk about timelines. We're going to talk best practices for the deal, and some contract management in command as well. So these slides were created by Keller Williams Realty International that are very general for real estate. So I'll dive in a little bit into some of the things that are common in Maryland here. So first, you're going to execute the contract, which is an executed contract is one that is signed by all parties on all things. We just had somebody who got out of a contract because there was a change of settlement date. Seller was sent over the change with initials, buyer never signed them. It wasn't really a contract because that was a term that was not taken care of. In general, a clean contract is going to protect everybody. You're going to work with the lender. You're going to do home inspection, home owner's insurance, home warranty, and close. So that's a buyer. It's going to be a little different for a seller, and I'm going to add some pieces here. So accept an offer, appraisal, and close. Now, things that you don't see on here on a seller that you saw for a buyer, work with a lender. Does the lender care about, should the seller care about the lender? Well, let me ask this. Is it the seller's job to care about the lender? No, it's not the seller's job. Should the seller care about the lender? I see heads shaking. Yes, the seller should absolutely care about the lender. I operate in this business under the theory that we all screw stuff up. And I'm going to assume that something is going to get screwed up in the process by no fault of anybody. By no, like everyone's intentions are good. I assume that they have great intentions, but there was a couple of years ago, had a contract that was a VA contract back when VAs were getting accepted more regularly. And they, but what it takes longer for a VA appraisal to go through. That is a thing that yes, some buyer, I see somebody that said some sellers are biased towards sellers are biased towards conventional loans. Totally. VA can be a little bit of a tough swallow right now. VA appraisals take longer to get in. I represented the buyer and I forgot to send the contract to the lender for 2 weeks. So we ended up having to push settlement because we couldn't get the appraisal in time. It was a lapse of my brain. I didn't use my system. I didn't use my checklist. I forgot something. If the seller, now there was a copy of the pre-approval in the contract. If the seller had sent it over to the lender and said, hey, excited to work with you, would that have been helpful? Or the listing agent, not the seller? I wouldn't mind. It's super helpful. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you having my back, just like I have your back. So just in general, assume that somebody is going to screw something up and there is an activity in the book. Hang on a second, I'm gonna turn off my space heater. It's hot as Hades in here. There's an activity. We are going to skip that activity because I'm gonna give you some bonus material. Which well, let me ask you this: would you rather do the activity or rather get a little bit of bonus material?
Bonus material.
Bonus.
All right. Okay. So we talked about the pieces of that. So the activity we will just talk about together for a minute. So I'm going to go back here to the buyer timeline. Who are the people that you need to talk to in this process? Just start naming some folks off.
The lender.
The
Yeah.
lender. Yes. Who else?
The inspectors,
The inspectors. Who else?
title company,
Title company. Who else?
the other agent,
The agent. Totally.
and your
The-
client.
And your client. Yep. So I'm going to role play real quickly a congratulations, you're under contract phone call. Who wants to be the buyer?
I'll be the buyer.
Okay, great. Awesome. Okay. So Sharon, I'm calling to let you know when you went under contract. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hey girl, guess what? You are about to be a homeowner.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. Well, we've got to get through the process. You know, we got April 20th as the settlement date. So we got some pieces to go through. So I'm going to talk you through what happens from here on out. Do you have a couple of minutes?
I do.
Okay, great. So, so the first thing I want you to know is I'm going to send you an email that is going to outline all of this after we get off the phone. So you don't actually need to remember any of it. So don't be afraid that you're going to forget the things that I wrote. Pause, break script for a second. Put everything in writing. It's just better for everyone. It covers your butt, covers your client's butts, because it covers everybody. Okay. So first thing in that email, I'm going to attach a copy of the executed contract, and I'm going to attach a copy of your agency agreement that you signed when we began working together. So just so that you have those for your records. I'm going to put in there all of the deadlines in the contract. There's going to be a bunch of deadlines, and we're going to keep that on track on our end, but I just want you to be aware of what those are. The first deadlines are going to have to do with lending. So I'm going to send your contract over to your lender. I've already let them know that you are under contract, and so they're going to be gathering information from you for the loan. And sometimes they are going to be a little bit of a pain in your ass because they're asking for things that you feel like, why do they need this? Don't they already have it? If they ask for it, just get it to them and get it to them as quickly as possible, because if we're going to meet our settlement date, that's what they need. So first piece is the lender. The lender is also going to order the appraisal so that, and then we'll talk about the appraisal kind of when that comes back and see where it comes as far as price goes. So in your contract, we are as is with inspections. So there's several different inspections that you could do. The first one is structural and mechanical, which is just your basic home inspection. Would you like to do a structural and mechanical inspection?
I would.
Okay. So, and this is a side note where I would also go into radon or termite or well or septic or chimney, all of the other inspections that they could get. I would go through each one in that and question. So in the state of Maryland, it is your choice who you use for your home inspector. Did you have someone in mind?
I don't have anyone in mind just yet.
Okay. Well, I would be happy to make a recommendation if that would be helpful.
Super great.
Okay. All right. So I will, if it's all right with you, I'll just check into my home inspector's availability and put something on the books and let you know what works, if that's okay with you.
Sounds great.
Okay. So next piece is actually, let me go back a second. Home inspection, because we are as is. This is for our information. When was the last time you purchased a home?
Oh, ages ago, maybe 20 years ago.
Okay. When you bought that home, did the sellers make any repairs?
It was new.
It was new. Okay. So there were no repairs. I just had a buyer who bought a house 10 years ago. And when they bought it, they did a home inspection and they asked the seller to make repairs, and the seller made a bunch of repairs. And that buyer was thinking that that's how things were going to go this day and age, which in some rare cases it does, but in our case, we are as is. So that means that we're going to use that home inspection to, isn't this already mentioned in the agreed upon contract? I'm explaining to them again about what home inspections look like, and that people don't remember what you say until the 8th time you say it. So you might have said this to them in the consult. You might have said this to them when you wrote the contract. You're saying it to them now. You're going to say it to them again at the home inspection. Because when they say, oh my gosh, the home's GFI outlets aren't working correctly, please, we need the seller to fix those. That it's because you didn't set expectations properly. Setting expectations with your client early and often and over and over and over again. So when it comes, so going back to the script with, so when we do get the home inspection report, really what we're looking for is to see if there's any deal breakers, anything that if they were on the home inspection, that you would choose to release this contract and go find another home to buy. Does that make sense?
So if this is as is, the seller's not fixing anything anyway, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's for our information so that we know. I mean, if we find out that there's spiders living in the walls and you don't want to buy the house because of that, I don't blame you. Let's run. That's why we have this, just so that we can get the information and we can decide, do we want to move forward or do we want to go find another home to buy?
Okay.
And so also in the state of Maryland, it's your choice who you use for title company. Did you have someone in mind?
No, I don't have anybody in mind for that either.
Okay. Again, happy to make a recommendation. I've got a partner that I work with on most of my files and just really, really excellent service. I'd be happy to connect you with them and send your file over if that works for you.
Okay, I trust that you know that person. So, okay, sounds great.
Okay, great. So again, next piece is going to be your lender. And then we're going to schedule the home inspection. And in between, once we get through that and closing, hopefully there's no hiccups, but the main place where a hiccup may happen is appraisal. So as you remember, we had to go above list price to get this house. And so when appraisal happens, I think that based upon the comps in the area, that our sales price, that it should appraise. But
Okay.
let's say we went under contract at 350. Let's say that it appraises for less than 350. We've got a couple of different choices there. We can ask I'll answer the appraisal question in a minute. We can ask the seller to lower the sales price from 350 to 340.
Okay.
We can bring $10,000 more money to the table. Or
When you say we, do you mean?
that's when I mean we, I mean the buyers, I mean you, girl. So what that looks like is sometimes it means rearranging your lending a little bit in that. But it's this house is on the market for 350. This area appreciated by 17% last year. So let's see give me a second because math. 350. So it appreciated by almost $60,000 last year. So essentially what you're doing in this case is that the way appraisals work is the appraiser will look at what has sold in the last 6 months. From what you've seen of the market, do you feel like the market is the same now as it was 6 months ago, or do you think it's different?
I think it's a little different.
Yeah, statistically, things are selling for more right now. So that could be part of the challenge, though, is that a house is really worth what a buyer is willing to pay, and you're willing to pay 350. Yet it's possible that something sold in the neighborhood 6 months ago that was 340. That's very similar.
Mhm.
And so the appraiser is going to use that, and the appraiser is going to put adjustments in for all of the different things. And and it's an art and it's a science. So I couldn't tell you what the appraiser is going to appraise it for. I think that we should appraise at 350. That's my professional opinion. And in the case that it doesn't, just know that you've got lots of options. And I'm here to guide you through that to make sure that the best possible outcome for you and your family is what we accomplish. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay. So we will do that. So let's see. I've got a couple of comments. Let me just make sure. So Candace, appraisal price has to be commensurate with the comps. Yes, the comps are basically what they do is they take the house that you're under contract on and they find as many houses that are as similar as possible, as close as possible geographically and in settlement date. And then they make adjustments. The house that you're under contract with has a brand new kitchen. This one didn't. Give them 10 grand. The house that you're under contract with doesn't have a deck. This one does. Take away money, and they adjust it as compared to the other houses. And that's how they get it. Again, it's an art and a science. Buyer pays for appraisal and inspections. The appraisal is indeed ordered by the lender, and the lender is, that is not something that the buyer has any control over whatsoever. Back in the day, in like 2006, 2007, before the huge bubble burst, the agents could choose their appraisers, and there was a lot of shady practices going on between lenders, agents, and appraisers. And that's a big reason why we had the bubble that we did. So it's completely out of the buyer's hands, completely out of the lender's hands. When the lender orders the appraisal, they send it to an appraisal management company, then it randomly assigns an appraiser. It's not something that you have choices on. Was that helpful, guys?
Yes. One question. So when you're doing the CMAs, are you going, let's say for that area, nothing has sold, well, the last thing sold maybe 6 months ago. Is there a time frame that you're not going back, like, to do that CMA?
I wouldn't go back more than 6 months if you can help it, but an appraiser might go back more than 6 months if it's a unique property. So an appraisal is like a CMA with more math involved and more formulas, and they just do them all the time. But no, especially in this market, I would go out a little bit more geographically, then go back further in time, because this market is just very different. And yes, buyer pays for everything. Okay, so it's very different as well when you have a home inspection request that you're making. So I'm going to just give you guys the script for that. Because eventually we will get back into a market where buyers are making requests. That might happen. I don't know about how soon it will. But so in this, so let's go back to Sharon. Sharon, we're going to do the home inspection. And
Okay.
it's the home inspector's job to kick the tires of the house. He's like the 11 o'clock news, all of the bad, none of the good. He's going to tell you everything that is possibly wrong with the house. If the outlet isn't working, what he's going to do is he's going to walk around the whole house and he's going to try all the outlets. And then he's going to show you the one that's not working. And he's going to tell you all of those things that might be there. And you're going to get a report, and then you're going to sit down, and then you're going to get some homework. I know you're a former teacher, so you love homework, right?
Yes, it's my favorite thing.
Your favorite. So you're going to grade that home inspection report with A's, B's, and C's.
Am I allowed at the inspection or no?
Yes. So
Okay.
some buyers choose to go to the inspection for the whole time and follow along with the home inspector. Some buyers choose to go and just kind of hang out and be there if the inspector wants to show them something. And what a lot of buyers do is they choose to go towards the end, because again, that home inspector is going to test all of the outlets. And then they're going to say, this is the outlet that doesn't work. So some buyers choose to just go at the end. But yes, you can go for however long you want. You're paying for it. It's your money. You're going to get your money's worth.
Okay.
But so we're going to go through and we're going to grade them as A's, B's, and C's. A items are your deal breakers. They are the things that if the seller does not fix it, you're going to go find another home to buy. Break script. You have heard me say that a couple of times. We're not saying get out of this contract. We're saying you're going to go find another home. That is putting in her mind that if she gets out of this contract, it's not that she's not buying a house. She's just buying a different house. She's not buying this house. She's going to buy another one. As opposed to you're not going to buy a house. That's a very different, you're speaking something into them that you don't want to speak into them. Okay. So A items are the things that if the seller is unwilling to fix them, you're going to go find another home to buy. Can you think of something that could come up that would be an A item?
If they couldn't fix it?
If the seller was unwilling to fix it, you would release this contract and go find another home to buy.
The furnace, the plumbing, electrical.
Yeah, let's say it's knob and tube behind the walls. And that's expensive and it's unknown. There's crack in the foundation. There's lots of things. As break script, as agents, it's not our job to define what an A item is. They might decide that an A item is, the toilet doesn't flush. That's not our job. It's our job to guide them. If we think they're being unreasonable, to help them self-discover that they're being unreasonable, but it's not our job to tell them that they're unreasonable. Donna, you have a question? You're on mute,
Sorry.
Donna.
Yeah, sorry. Just a comment. One thing that I always make sure that I explain to them is that the purpose of the inspection is to look for structural, mechanical, and safety issues. Cosmetics,
Yeah.
you can ask people for cosmetics, but if they don't agree to do cosmetics, you can't get out of the contract.
So I'll go into that more with this script too. So
Okay.
the Candace, you said defects should be disclosed. If they know about them, they should be disclosed, but they don't always know about them. Okay, so your A items, those are your deal breakers, the things that if the seller was unwilling to fix them, you would go find a different house to buy. B, in and of themselves, they're not deal breakers, your B items. However, if there were several of them combined, that might equal an A item. They're the things that, might not be, you don't love, but they're not going to stop you from buying this house. C items are your cosmetic items and your honeydew punch list items for after you move in. No house is perfect. No house is going to be perfect, but these are the items that if none of them got fixed, you wouldn't worry about it at all. So once we go through there, we are definitely going to ask for your A's for sure. Depending on how many A's you have, we're going to pick and choose some B's. And then again, those C's, we're going to leave to that honey-do list, that Home Depot shopping trip after you move in. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. So what you're telling them then is that they're not at, because you will have buyers say, well, can't we just ask for everything? And once you get there, if you say no, you become, and like, you're not looking out for me. You're not looking at my best interests. That is, you want to be their friend. So here's the other piece. I like to tell lots of stories, and don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Make it up if you need to. So I was talking with a seller the other day who got a home inspection request, and basically the buyer asked for everything. And the seller actually got kind of tiffy, like offended. They felt like, what the heck? This is a crazy market, and this buyer is asking for me to do these crazy things. So they just said, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not doing anything. Screw it. I'll go find another buyer. And that buyer might have been able to get some things done if they had listed only the most important things, but because they asked for 57 items, you're the one who gets to decide the final request. I just don't want you to end up in the shoes of that buyer. That's a really great way, by the way, of deflecting. Like, I'm not saying that you're an idiot for asking for 57 items, but that person asked for 57 items and they were an idiot. Do you want to be like that? It's just, it helps with that piece. Any questions on that? I just kind of went through a pretty long bit of the bonus material scripting. How long is this class supposed to be? An hour, right?
Until 8.
Until 8. So we got 2 hours. All right, good. Because I'm not even halfway through the material we got. Okay. So next is the communication points. So in this process, I would say, so remember those people we talked about, the lender, the title company, the home inspector, the other agent, the client, anybody else? How often do you think you should communicate with them?
Minimum weekly, but anytime anything happens or every couple of days.
Yeah, I am in agreement with that. It's a minimum of every week. And here's the deal. Lots of lenders find me very annoying, and I am okay with that. So if it's my listing, is it my job to make sure that they ordered the appraisal? It's not my job, but I'm going to do it anyways. I have lenders who will say, I would say, just checking in to see if the appraisal was ordered. And they'll say, it has not yet been ordered. I'll let you know when it is. Like, okay, I'll check in a couple of days. 2 days later, was the appraisal ordered? They say, no, it does not need to be ordered until day 14. We're on day 4. I will let you know when it's ordered. Okay, great. I'll follow up with you in a couple of days. Did you order the appraisal? Or let's take closing, the closing disclosure. The closing disclosure in the state of Maryland has to go out, I actually think it's the whole country, 3 days prior to settlement. So I know that if it doesn't go out, we're not settling on time. So let's say a closing disclosure is supposed to go out tomorrow. Hey, Joe, I just wanted to make sure that everything's on track for the closing disclosure to go out tomorrow. Yep, everything's on track. Okay, great. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Hey, Joe, what time do you expect the closing disclosure to go out today? I don't know. I need to talk to my closer. Okay, great. Let me know. Otherwise, if I don't hear from you, I'll follow up with you a little bit in about an hour. Hey, Joe, did you check with your closer? No. Do you want to give me her contact information? I'm happy to call her directly. No, I will follow up with her. Gosh darn it. And then he checks, it's going to go out by 3 o'clock. Okay, great. Thanks so much. 3 o'clock. Closing disclosure go out. The more annoying you are, the more likely it is that closing disclosure is actually going to go up. And I will tell them, and if it's my buyer and my lender, same thing. Closing disclosure go out. When's the closing disclosure going out? Is it signed? Did they get it? Because it doesn't need to just go out. They need to sign it too. Send me a text message. It's 10 o'clock at night. I don't care. send me a text message. I want to know that we're going to settlement on time. It's my responsibility to make sure that everything happens, even if it's somebody else's job. All right, accept an offer, appraisal. Right now, when it comes to appraisals, so I'll tell a story. Sharon knows a story because I told it in our class. We had an agent here who had a listed at 230, and he got in 17 offers, I think, bunch of offers. He narrowed it down to 2 of them. One was an offer for $260,000, and one was an offer for $242,000. Now to the seller's naked eye, which offer do you think they thought was better? 260 or 242?
At 260.
260. That's $18,000 more. Who doesn't want 18,000 extra dollars? I want 18,000 extra dollars. But when we looked at it deeper, the offer for 260, none of the other terms were good. All of the other terms were unfavorable. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that other agent didn't seem to know what they were doing and was unresponsive. And third thing is that the offer for 242 actually had what we call an appraisal gap addendum, which means, remember earlier when I was talking to Sharon and I said, if it under appraises by 10 grand, one of the options is for her to bring an additional 10 grand to the table. That an appraisal gap addendum is basically when you tell the seller that that's what you'll do ahead of time. So this one had a $5,000 appraisal gap addendum that the buyer would be willing to bridge 5,000, whereas the 260 did not. Lastly, I know the agent for the 242, the agent for 260, nobody knew, and she wouldn't answer our phone calls. She would only answer text messages. So we called the agent that I knew, and we countered, got her client's offer up to 250, and they and kept all the other terms the same. So that was 10 grand less than the 260 offer. So it's possible that the seller was putting 10 grand on the table. Guess what it appraised for? Is that Donna?
250 or 240, who knows?
247. 247. So is there a special addendum for that, or is that on a blank addendum? Generally, it's a blank addendum. I would check with your broker or whoever it is that teaches contracts in your office to make sure that you are using the language that they recommend in that. But so the seller, if they got their 250, if they had gone with the offer that was 260 with poor terms, they would have ended up getting 247. So by taking the offer with lower terms, with a lower sales price, but better terms, they ended up netting more money. And that's really what it's all about. And so it's our job to help our sellers understand that when it comes to offers. We've got multiple offers. It's not just about sales price. It's about the other terms as well.
So if I think you said that it's put in the contract, like an offer, if it doesn't appraise that much, the buyer's gonna put in 5,000 or so. So if it appraises higher than that and they need like 10,000, they're able to just rescind that offer?
I'm not sure I quite understand, but let's just talk real quickly about what appraisals have to do. A buyer cannot get a loan for anything higher than the appraised amount. So the loan is 250. A buyer can pay whatever a buyer wants to pay for the house, but they can't get a loan for more than the appraised amount. So if the house appraises for 250, but the buyer wants to pay $500,000 and the buyer has 250 grand in cash that they can bring, the buyer can pay $500,000 for the house. Sales price and appraised price are two different prices, but your loan can only be for the appraised price or lower. So let's say that house appraised for 275, then you could still get the loan at 260 or 250. Over appraising is not an issue. It's when it under appraises. Now, there might be a situation where you didn't ask for seller help. So seller help is when it is requested that the seller pay for some of the closing costs for the buyer. It's a unicorn. in this market. You're probably not going to see it in general. And let's say it did appraise for 275 and your buyer really, really wants oh, thank you, Candace. Your buyer would really like to keep that cash to buy a new living room set. Depending on the situation, you might say, hey, Mr. Listing Agent, we got a little bit of wiggle room in the appraisal. Would your seller consider adjusting the terms to have seller help? I would pull that one out of my pocket pretty rarely. And that is a possibility. But no, if the buyer is willing to bring 10,000, but it appraises just fine, the buyer does not need to bring the 10,000.
Let me rephrase it again. Because, okay, so when you're making the offer and you say, okay, the buyer is willing to bring $5,000 if it appraises, under.
Yeah.
But what if it is appraises like 10,000 more, like, so is the buyer
10,000 under?
Yeah, 10,000 under, I mean.
Oh, sorry.
So-
I was thinking above over appraised. Yeah. So let's say it's 250. Buyer, the offer is 250. Buyer says, I will bring 5,000 to the table, but it appraises at 240. Is that what
Right.
what you're asking? So
Right.
then you go back to the drawing board there where you have the same options that I outlined with you to begin with. You've only accounted for what you would do if it's a $5,000 gap. Now
Okay.
we're back to negotiation. So the options are buyer can bring an additional 5,000, seller can reduce the sales price, or
Okay.
we can release the contract.
Okay.
Good questions. Yeah. And I mean, Candace, Sharon can tell you I'm pretty much no nonsense. It's kind of like just who I am.
Can I get another example
Of what?
of this, a similar scenario
A similar
If you-
scenario.
of the house, the asking price being one price and then it appraising for a price is lower?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in general, let's use even numbers. Let's say $300,000. The contract is for $300,000. The appraisal comes in at $290,000. So we're dealing with $10,000. Back when you made the offer, you could have told the seller and agreed with the seller on how that was going to be dealt with if it should happen. So in that case, you could have put in an addendum that the buyer is going to pay the full 10,000, or you could put in no addendum, or you could say the buyer will pay 5,000 if it happens. But if it appraises for 300, that addendum was completely unnecessary. But what you did is you set yourself apart. If your offer is 300,000 and somebody else's offer is 300,000, and they look the same on the surface, but what you have said is, if the house does not appraise for $300,000, the buyer, will take $10,000 of a hit, up to 10,000. Now, if it appraises for $297,000, now the buyer's only taking a $3,000 hit. They don't have to take the full. They're saying, I will take up to a $10,000 hit if the house is not appraised.
Okay, so you're putting something in place hypothetically, just in case it doesn't appraise for the amount that they're asking for. And you're saying, oh, okay, if it doesn't come in at this price, I'll go up 5,000 above the appraisal price.
Correct. I will, if it comes in that case, let's say it came in at 290 and you only said I would pay 5,000. What you've pre-negotiated is that you will still pay 295. Your loan is only going to be for 290. So it's 5,000 above and beyond your closing costs and your down payment that you already considered. Now, sometimes the lender can just reshuffle. It was going to be 20% down, and now they put 15% down instead and reshuffle the terms so that they've got that extra cash. If you're buying, cash is king. Cash is king. It's going to help with a lot of things for sure. So I would, so that's a conversation you should have with the lender as well to help them to understand what the buyer's options are. The money does talk. Money talks.
Can I ask, well, I just want to make one statement because I know my husband and I, we debate this all the time. He says, why would somebody pay hypothetically, well, we're talking real estate, let's say real estate, like we're talking, 30,000 over the asking price. Why would someone do that?
Okay, so that's a great question. And I'm gonna go in here so that y'all can see me a bit bigger. So why would somebody pay? Who thinks they might have an answer to that question? Why would somebody pay $30,000 over the list price? Donna, what do you think?
Well, sometimes the agents will actually underprice the homes just to create a large amount of offers and bid it up as high as they possibly can. So when you're looking at writing an offer as the agent, you should also be doing a market analysis to show your buyer, to let them know where that list price is. Is it higher than what the comps appear to be? Is it lower? And you can temper your offer based on that additional information. So sometimes they're just trying to get a higher bid and bid it up. And so that if you're willing, you might want to. The other thing is if they personally really want that neighborhood, that type of home, it's close to their mother, it's close to whatever, their work, and they can walk, whatever it may be, they may be willing to pay more than even the market value, which is what they're agreeing to do by signing this. And the other thing, if they say they're willing to do that, you as the agent also should be saying, well, remember, if you get transferred again in 2 years and you overpay, you might have to take a loss when you sell it. So there are a lot of things that go into it, a lot of conversation you need to have with the buyer to explain all of that.
Most of that is, I'm totally on the same page. I actually have a friend in California who is listing her houses for $1. $1. Why do you think she's doing that?
Because she's trying to start a bidding, don't want to say bidding war, but I can't think of another word to say right now, but.
Yeah, yes, that's what ultimately what happens, but it's because in this market, what a home is worth, what a buyer is willing to pay. What the house next door sold for 3 days ago does not actually matter if a buyer is willing to pay. Kalani, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly. You raised your hand?
You were kind of close. It's Kulani. So I was gonna ask, if a buyer decides to pay, $30,000 over asking price, and the house does not appraise for that amount, and they are using FHA financing or specific financing types that require their down payment to be below a certain amount without taking a hit, wouldn't that be something you would need to advise your buyer on as well?
So so a couple of pieces. I am not a lender, nor do I pretend to be one on television. So that I will always defer to a lender, and I will not, even if I know the answer, I will not give the answer to my client if it is a question that should be asked for the lender. The reason for that is, what if rules change since the last time I dealt with this situation? What if there's, the rules change all the time, things change, that people's situations. So I would advise them that we need to get the lender on the horn and talk with them. And somebody said earlier in the chat about making sure that your lender works on the weekends. Make sure that the lender is somebody who's going to pick up your phone call and help you with these things. But the amount that they pay above and beyond appraised price has nothing to do with the loan. Their loan is based upon appraised price. So if a down payment needs to be a certain percentage, that down payment is based upon the appraised price, not the sales price. So if they're bringing in an additional $100,000, that's not like them they're not putting another $100,000 down payment. Down payment, it has to do with the loan. They're just paying an additional $100,000 outside of the loan.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely, so why would somebody pay over? There's, so for many different reasons. And right now, I think that people, I hear this a lot. I'm going to wait until prices stabilize. Last year, you saw that, again, I said 17%. Let's use even numbers, 10%. Okay. 10%, let's say the market goes up 10% this year. A $500,000 house today is worth $550 1 year from now. That's 10%. Additionally, if interest rates go up by 1%, that is 10% in purchasing power. So somebody who can afford $500,000 today can, if the interest rates go up by 1%, can afford $450 at that point. And now the house is worth $550. So now that's $100,000 gap. So let's say the house is worth $450, or let's say it's worth $500 and I pay $550, but it's going to increase in price. I'm basically saying I'm giving up the first year of equity because the interest rates are still somewhat low. If we thought interest rates were going to go down, that's more of a gamble that I'd be willing to take. I don't think interest rates are going to go down. I just went under contract on a house to buy 4 months earlier than I intended to buy because I don't think interest rates are going to go down. All right.
Katrina,
Yes.
is it possible too that buyers are getting and have been caught up in the frenzy of what they perceive as a really hot seller's market, and they actually feel like they're missing out, and it's almost like the thrill of the chase. So it's like, oh, there's a house for 500. Hey, honey, let's offer 530 for it. After all, everyone's doing it, and it's kind of a psychological. It's almost like when people want to buy a Coach handbag, knowing that it's ridiculously overpriced, but they do it anyway because it's kind of like a status symbol. Is that part of this possibly?
So this is where a great needs analysis comes in earlier on in the process to understand what their wants and needs are. Like, so let's take me, for example. My family and I, we have outgrown our house. And I would say that in general, if somebody wants to buy in the next 5 years, they should buy right now. It's not, let's wait. And if you want to buy, you have to do what you have to do. Just had an offer the house was listed at 475, offered 50,000 above list price. And we weren't even in the ballpark. So it's actually not, to me, it's not about what list price is versus sales price, any of that. It's what does my buyer need? Have I done a really great job of doing a needs analysis with them? But if interest rates go up, my brother used to sell cars, and he told me I was buying a car, and I was like, well, this one's $20,000 and this one's $22,000. He said, it doesn't matter. What's your payment? I said, what do you mean? It's like, are you a price buyer or are you a payment buyer? Because at the end of the day, that $22,000 car, if you can get a better payment term, if you can get a better interest rate, your payment might be lower. So overall, you're paying less. People are getting mortgages. If somebody is paying cash, they should care about the price. If they are getting a mortgage, it's how much can I afford? And if interest rates go up, their payment's going to go up, even if prices stay the same or go down. Prices can go down and their payment will go up, which is why if you're going to buy in the next 5 years, I say buy now, because I do not think that interest rates are going to go down. They're only going to go up, which means purchasing power is going to change. But I think a coach maybe buying a house in a certain neighborhood is a status symbol, but paying 50, 60, 70 grand over is not a status symbol, in my opinion, because most people want to, like, you don't actually get anything to show for that. But the, no, I would not say that it feels like a status symbol to me, but great question. Okay, so let's go back to my presentation. Sorry, I get a little passionate. I don't know if y'all notice. Okay, so we're going to talk about best practices for risk avoidance. So it's funny because this class, teaching it 5 years ago, is a very different class right now. So where are deals going to fall apart? Who has an example of somewhere where they think a deal's going to fall apart?
With the appraisal, with the inspections.
Yep. Anything else? Here's a little tip. HOA as a buyer's agent is your get out of jail free card. So there's a rule in the state of Maryland that if there's an HOA or a condo, that the buyer has to receive the docs, review them, and has a certain period of time to do so. I had a buyer who wanted to buy a house, went into a neighborhood, wanted chickens in the backyard. Backyard was big enough for chickens. HOA said you can't have chickens. Can the seller control the fact that the HOA said they can't have chickens? No. So the buyer got out, and that's an example of, because the seller cannot change what the HOA says, buyer has unilateral release capability with an HOA. So if they decide that they want to get out because they, saw a fortune teller and the fortune teller said it was a bad choice, if there's HOA, it's your get out of jail free card. So a deal will fall apart at HOA. It's not usually actually because of HOA. It's usually because the buyer wants to get out of jail free card. Best practices for keeping the deal alive: setting expectations for the buyer, the seller, and the other agent, having all of that up front. What we are seeing, so we got a chat thing. What about the escape clause? Is that such a thing? Escape clause. HOA is your escape clause. That you can get out of the deal on a contingency. So contingencies are generally financing, inspection, addenda, inspection, appraisal, HOA. You can put other things in there. But again, we are in a seller's market, so they're not going to want very many reasons why the buyer can get out. The setting expectations. So sometimes what happens, so Robert, that person got swept up and they paid 30 grand over list and they got it. And now they're like, shit, did I have to pay that much? It's a lot of money. So this is where also scripting and setting expectations comes up. So I'm going to say to my buyer, so we're going to make this offer and they're going to present it. And the day after, the morning that we find out which buyer got the house, you are going to have a regret. And it's going to be one of two regrets. And regret number one is going to be somebody else got the house. And you think, I only paid 20 grand over. What if I had paid 30 grand over? Would that have gotten me the house? I should have done it. I could have done it. And the other side of the regret is I got the house and I paid 30 grand over, which, by the way, I would change the language of overpaying to paying over. Because in this market, they're not overpaying, they're paying over. They're paying over the list price. And if they got the deal, they were probably paying over what anyone else was willing to pay. So regret number one is I didn't get the house and I could have done more. Regret number two is I got the house and I could have done less. The thing is, we're never going to know how much less you could have done. Did you win by $1,000? Did you win by $10,000? We're not going to know. And in this market, that $500,000 house is going to appreciate by 50 grand. You paid 30 grand over. 6 months from now, you'll have that equity back. But I don't want you to think that if you, I want you to know that if you go over, if you pay over, you may question if you went too far over. And that is natural, that at the end of the day, it's just truth. If you get it, you will have paid over what anybody else is willing to pay. Setting that expectation ahead of time so that they now, when they feel that way, they would do that. But what we'll see sometimes is that they get buyer's remorse. They were so, they put in 5 offers and none of them got accepted. So they put one in on this one, but now that they've actually got it, they're like, I don't like that house that much. That's more of what we see, is that buyers are getting cold feet. They decide they didn't want that house. What tasks have deadlines? Who has an answer for that one?
Mortgage
Publications.
application, mortgage approval, all the inspections.
Appraisal.
The buyer contract agreement.
Yep, so that does have a deadline. If your agency agreement, you should pay attention to that, because it doesn't work if it's expired. Yeah, so just keeping track of your deadlines and knowing that it's your job to keep them in line, to make sure that everything is met, that you're not in breach of contract.
Are you giving like a form? I know earlier when we started, you were like, you give a, you emailed them, I guess, and sent a paper of all the deadlines. Is that kind of like a form letter, or are you just, writing in, or?
Yeah, let me. So y'all, show you behind the curtain. Give me a second. My drive. So this is the. What is the? Let me see if I can. Make sure that there's nothing in here that. All right, so I am going to. Drop that in the chat. So congratulations, paperwork and deposit. Oh, that's the other thing. I didn't even talk about the deposit. If you don't have the deposit in hand, you need to get the deposit and get that deposited ASAP. But here's the kind of the form there. So y'all can see that. Okay, so why do you think it's important to have a good relationship with your co-broker? Does everybody know what a co-broker is?
Nope.
The other agent. It's just the other agent, cooperating broker. It's the other agent. It's a national term, but yeah, if you represent the buyer, it's the listing agent. If you represent the seller, it's the buyer's agent. So why is it important to have a good relationship?
To make
Few
sure you guys
reasons.
work together and the deal closes.
If you don't have a good relationship with the co-broker, then they are less likely to actually work with you to get the deal to the closing table. And if you guys end up working together on future deals, it could be a detriment to those deals as well.
Ah, that is a good one. What if you have a really, really great deal? What if it's a hard one, but you and the co-broker come together and work together and you feel so accomplished and you're like, we got to go grab a beer afterwards. 3 months from now, you make an offer on another one of the listings. Who do you think they're going to favor?
You.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Relationships mean a lot in this industry. So having good relationships with your people is super important. Yeah, and building those relationships ahead of time. You can also lean on the relationships of the people in your brokerage as well. So if you haven't done a lot of deals, you might not know those other agents, but ask around. You might know, hey, this agent, this house is listed by, I don't know, Abby Cobb. Do you know Abby? Yeah, Abby's a friend of mine. I'll put in a good word for you. So asking the producing agents and asking your leadership at your office can help as well. But at the end of the day, you can view your co-broke as sitting on the opposite side of the table as you, and you're going against each other, or sitting on the same side as the table as you, and you're both with the common goal of getting it to the table. And that's how I like to view things, that they're my partner in getting this to the table and having it be a win-win, because at KW we say win-win or no deal. All right. Get repeat business and referrals. Okay. So who has bought or sold a home here? How many people? Raise your hand. All right, I see a couple of people who bought or sold a home. What did it feel like in the contract process? How did you feel? Donna, how did you feel during the contract process?
During the contract, what?
Contract process, after you were under contract
Process.
before you closed. How did you feel? What did you want from your realtor?
I was my own realtor every time.
Every
Sorry.
time.
Yeah.
Who hasn't, Robert, have you bought a house?
Yes.
What did you want from your realtor in between contract and close?
You talking about buying or selling?
Either.
Let's see. Interestingly, the 3 homes that my wife and I have purchased, we've bought in new home communities. So we weren't really working with a realtor in a classic sense, but we have sold a couple houses using realtors. So that's probably the best way for me to think about this.
Yeah, so when you think about that process in between after you went under contract and before you got to closing, what were some things that were important to you? And Candace, speak up too.
I think the last time around, we had to sell a house at a huge loss, which is extremely emotionally troubling for us. So I think what we were most concerned about was whether or not the buyers would really ultimately come through.
Yeah, so you were just looking for assurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We sold in 2017, about 5 years ago, and the market wasn't especially hot at that time. We had overpaid for the house and sold it at a deep discount, and it was like, oh crap, we hope that these people really do come to sell them. And so
Yeah, there can be a lot of fear in the process. Yeah. Yeah.
The realtor did a great job of working with the buyer's agent and stuff like that.
Candace, you said you just bought a house. What did you want from your agent in the process?
Fashion designer and creative director of Lanvin was mourned by celebrity clients at his death in 2021.
Somebody was mourned.
There was. And look at what we have here. That's what.
Candace, can you? Unfortunately, it sounds like your microphone might not be working correctly. No, not really.
Oh, can you
that's
hear
better.
me?
That's better. Yep.
Oh,
So you want
so
from your-
to get rid of buyers, very generous.
yeah, it's going back in and out again. Like maybe you're like holding on to where the microphone is.
Oh, so we just put a generous EMD down, and all of a sudden the competing buyers, they all went away. So that's how. So what we really wanted from our agent was to handle the contracts, because I had already found the home myself. So
Gotcha.
our agent really didn't have to do much aside from drawing up contracts, because I'm so particular, I wanted to find a house. So.
Gotcha. So Latrice, I see you had your hand raised.
Oh, yes. What I was thinking is, with me, when I purchased a home, I wanted constant communication and status updates.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, it's, we have what's called the curse of knowledge. When we know what's going on and we assume that, because I know that nothing is going sideways, no news is good news. It's kind of like when you get married and say, I told you I loved you the day I married you. If anything changed, I'd let you know. But it's, as an agent, there's a lot of fear on both sides. So you want to, you really want to make sure that you're keeping in communication, even if there's nothing to say, even if it's just a, hey guys, I haven't talked to you. I haven't talked to you in a couple of days. There's nothing really to update, but I just wanted to check in on you and make sure y'all are okay, doing well. So I'm going to rewind a little bit to the buyer consult and then we can talk about the listing after that. I like to work by referral. I think that's the best possible way. So when you're in the buyer consult and after they've agreed to work with you, there's a script that I'm going to give you guys. So who wants to be my role play partner on this one? Can't be Sharon because she did the last one. Don't everybody volunteer at once?
I'll do it. Oh, go ahead, Robert.
Oh, we got Robert. All right, Robert. Okay, so you're a buyer and you just agreed to work with me. So Robert, I am super excited to find you your house. Let me ask you this. Did you know that most realtors spend 80% of their time looking for their next client and 20% of their time on their current clients? Have you ever heard that?
No, I've never heard it.
Yeah, it's, I actually like to do business the opposite way. I like to spend 80% of my time with my current clients and 20% of my time looking for my next business. And the way that I get to do that is my clients help me. So would it be all right if I told you about some ways that you can help me with that?
Sure, why not?
Yeah. So what kind of car do you drive?
A Lamborghini.
A Lamborghini. Lambo. What color?
Yellow.
A yellow Lamborghini. Let me ask you this. When you bought that yellow Lamborghini, did you start noticing any other yellow Lamborghinis on the road or yellow cars or Lamborghinis?
I did.
Yeah, that's it's actually a part of our brain called the Reticular Activator system, or RAS for short, that is the part of the brain that makes association. And your RAS is going to start going off now. You're going to be out to dinner with some friends and they're going to say, what's new? You're going to say, oh, you know what? I'm in the process of buying a house. And they're like, hey, you know what? We were just talking about, you know, we've been in the condo for 3 or 4 years. We might want to start a family. We might want to buy a house. Or it's going to come up. You're going to be at Starbucks and the person in front of you in line is going to say, wow, just got that promotion. You can finally buy the new house. They're just going to, you're just like you started seeing Lambos, you're going to start seeing buyers and sellers. It's weird, but it's true. And my request for you is just when you find those people, and by the way, I know that statistically you're going to find 2 of them in between now and when you get to closing. My request is just when you find those people, would you be willing to connect them with me?
Well, you know, the price of gas is really outrageous right now. And this Lamborghini really guzzles gas. So if I can see maybe a gas card coming my way in return, I would consider.
Yeah, I don't see it. Here's the deal. When we get to settlement, I've got a nice gift for you. And however, I am not allowed to give you, I'm not allowed to do that for referrals for sure.
Okay. Well, I was teasing. I actually drive a 1976 Dodge Dart. So
those things are still around.
It's actually quite cheap, the gas.
Yeah, there you go. There you
No,
go.
I'd be happy to give you referrals. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the best way to connect me with them, because sometimes I'll have people say, "Oh yeah, I told my coworker that about you, and they're going to give you a call," and then they never call. They never call, ever. So so the best way, and usually it's because they forgot. Was it Robert that gave me a referral, or was it Donna? What did I do with that person's contact information? They gave me a card. It went to the bottom of my purse along with the old chewed up gum, and I lost it. So generally the best way to connect me is when you find that person, send them a text message, copy me. Send them an email, copy me. Send them a Facebook message, DM, copy me. Just put us both on the same communication. That way I have their
Yep.
information, they have my information, and we can both contact each other. Does that work?
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Would you mind if I ask you throughout the process if you found any of those folks?
I don't care. No, that's fine.
Okay, all right, cool. So I will do that. I'll just remind you to keep looking out for your RAS, and I look forward to spending 80% of my time with you.
Thank you so much.
You're asking this during the process, not
During the
after.
consult. During the consult, most people don't ask for referrals until after the consult. Is the client's RAS going off anymore after they close? No, they're thinking now about dishwashers and refrigerators. They're not thinking about buying a house anymore because that part is done. So yes, you say that at the consult, and then you do ask them. By the way, that statistic of 2 people in between when they sign with you and go to closing, that's true. With a seller, it's 1 person, and they'll refer you after contract. So you adjust that script and have it for them when you go under contract, because they don't actually like you until you've sold their house. The cards are still out before you've gone under contract, but those statistics are true. All right, let's talk about command. All right, so in command, y'all have the different areas. So we're going to go into opportunities, and how much have you guys gone through opportunities? A little bit, a lot of it. I'm not going to spend a ton of time here.
None.
None. Okay. So here, I'm going to show you where to go if you want to do some self-paced learning on command. So yeah, I think maybe I need to. Okay. So
While you're finding that, I just want to mention, I am part of Market Center leadership in Annapolis. So my entire experience with opportunities right now is Command MC.
So as a member of Kulani, as a member of leadership, it's really good for you to get on this. So on KW Connect, you go to, if my screen, usually it's here, that looks like this. So you go to technology, command your business. This is the easy button step-by-step guide for how to go through command. You get command as a part of KW. You should learn all about it. So first is command your database with contacts and smart plans. Recommended training. Build your database. Video, 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 article, video, video. Add neighborhoods to contacts. There's video, video, video. There. Now you scroll down, command your transactions with opportunities. I would focus first on contacts and opportunities. There's going to be a lot more consumer experience, marketing, command your day with goals, tasks, and reports. Here's the deal. Who has seen Frozen 2? Anybody? All right. So the Frozen 2, there's a song where she says, just do the next right thing. The next right thing for y'all is going to be to learn about contacts and opportunities. You can't learn all of the things. You got to go be lead generating. You could spend all your day learning and never sell a house. And I don't know if y'all about y'all, but I got my real estate license to make money, not to just sit down and sit and learn. So in general, I would say when it comes to command, the main things to focus on to begin with are contacts and opportunities. So I'm gonna breeze through this because this is not a command class. I am not your tech trainer. However, you've got listings, buyers, and leases. So if I go in, click on one of those, these stages, the parts that say cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, and close, those pieces all, Latrice, when you are responding, you're only responding to me, by the way. It takes me to learn all this stuff. That's why we're taking your time. Yes, it does take time to learn all of this stuff. And I'm telling you, just go find buyers and sellers. It's much better to learn on the job. Cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, and close. These stages you cannot change. You can change what's underneath in that. So you go to edit stages and I can add. So like, let's say I want to add a stage to referral received. And I'm going to put it there. So now when I go back, I've got another stage of referral received. I would say for right now, just go ahead and use what you got. Don't worry about trying to customize everything. Just use what you got. But when you go into edit stages, like let's go here. If I go to edit the escrow, where is the checklist? Hang on a second. Oh, there we go. Sorry, the checklist. So if you click here, I don't have any checklist items I can add in here. So make sure that the EMD gets to my MCA or title company. Have intro call. Send intro email. All of those things. So you go in there and now when somebody is in that stage, it's going to give me reminders of 3 things to do. But here's the deal. I'm going to go back here to opportunities. When you get a possible lead, put them in here under cultivate. What happens to a lot of people is they're like, hey, you know what? I got somebody signed paperwork. I'm going to add them to my pipeline. But most people are really good at keeping in touch with a lead that goes smoothly. Somebody says, I want to buy a house. You say, all right, let's sit down and have a conversation. They sit down and have a conversation. They sign agency. They go out and look at houses. They make an offer. They go into contract. Nobody's dropping that ball. What if they talk to the lender and their credit was stolen? Their identity was stolen and they need to fix that. How long is that going to take to fix? Could be a year. You got to keep track of those people. So having them in here and creating, you can create in that checklist nurture, which is more long-term. I can go in here and in nurture, I'm going to say follow up monthly. And then it would just go in to my, when I go to my tasks, sorry, wrong one. When I go to my tasks, it's going to pull up those things in my to-do items. So again, this page, KW Connect, command your business. I'll drop that in the chat. You watch the videos. Watch the videos, learn as much as you can, play around with it, put in dummy people, just learn the system. Okay, what? Consumer guide, I don't use that, so I'm just gonna skip over it. Okay, so the other piece, I'm gonna give you some bonus material on, oh, you know what, I should give you. Yeah. I know I have one for the rest. There we go. Just dropped that link in there as well for you. Oh, so home inspections. When we get back to the point that you can actually make a request, so a best practice of something that we do is, I remember back when I said you're going to grade them A's, B's, and C's. I share with them a Google Doc and have them type it in here. We're going to work on cultivating it together, but as an agent, you do not want to tell them what they should ask for in the home inspection. Do not take that on. By having it in a Google Doc, of course, this might not be one that we did. So you can see the changes that were made over time. And so let's say, for example, the house has, I wonder if I actually have, polybutylene piping. They, and that's something that you think that they should ask for. They put it on here. You can see whether or not who put it on and who took it off. So when it comes back and they say, oh, you took that off the list, you can see the version history to see who typed what in there. You can collaborate. I can share this document with you right now. We can type it together. So in general, they're going to come in and they're going to have A's, B's, and C's listed in here. And then I group them by type of person who's going to do the thing. So this right here is appears to be a 5-item request. Is it actually 5 items? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 items, but because I've grouped them by type of request, it just feels different. Also within the actual home inspection request, it says if you have too much, put it on a separate page. I just put it on a separate page to begin with, because the way that it is, there's a small part of the box and then a big part of the box and then another page if you have more. That means the request is on 3 pages. Even though this amount of information might need to be on 3 pages if you did it that way. Do you think a seller visually finds it more overwhelming to have that many pages or everything on 1 page?
If it's all in a legible font, then it's more overwhelming for it to be on 3 pages.
Right. Right. Well, and that's the thing is sometimes you'll get it and they don't even like put spaces. And it's just, it's so hard to process and go through. So again, we're not doing many of these. And yet they still do happen sometimes where where you're asking for, you're making a home inspection request. So in that, you want to make sure that you are representing the best interest of your client. But this is a great way to collaborate with them and make it a little less overwhelming for a seller. Oh, and sometimes you're still getting inspection, like if you go under contract right now for something that's been on the market for 14 days, 20 days, 30 days. I was just looked online at a house that was on the market for like 52 days. That you might actually get some repairs. So again, speak to your leadership, talk with them. All right, so ahas. What remember, I told you all you're gonna have to tell me some ahas. So I need 5 ahas. Raise your hand if you have an aha. All right, Gwendolyn, say a hand.
My aha is I have a better understanding of the addendum when you're doing in negotiations when the buyer is going over the appraisal amount. That if I make any sense.
Yeah, for sure. Love it. Sharon.
Okay, my aha is just making sure like you're following the deadline so that the contract goes smoothly.
Yeah, deadlines are key. If you have a seller who hasn't gone on the market yet and they want to go on today, they go on tomorrow instead, it'll be fine. If you have a home inspection request due today and you send it over tomorrow, you are screwed. So make sure.
And just going over more than once for things that are needed, maybe annoying the lender and all of that too,
I'm nice, but I'm totally annoying. Dina, I got the RAS script was an aha. Yeah, anybody else that like the RAS script? It's not mine. I don't have any original thoughts. I like to steal from other people. All right, we got 3. We need 2 more. Oh wait, no, somebody said something?
No, I was saying I like the RAS script.
Awesome. All right, I need 2 more.
Hello?
Hello, Candace?
Yes, I have learned to, a lot.
I have a hard time hearing you still.
Oh, I learned about some negotiating tricks. I didn't know there were so many different strategies in the closing process. So you taught me a lot about that.
Good, glad to hear it. All right, one more. I'm going to focus on contingencies and understanding each. Contingencies are important. The main ones, again, are financing, inspection, HOA. Those are really the main contingencies. But you can have other contingencies. It's just those are absolutely the main ones. And understanding what saying that they paid over instead of overpaid. That's why, again, I stole that from somebody else as well. Okay, what? Let me see what else we got in this slideshow. Recap and create your success list. That's what it says. Okay, so let's talk about your who's doing elementals? Who's getting 10 contacts, 10 conversations, 10 handwritten notes, and 10 home previews per week? So am I hearing that nobody's doing it? Is that accurate? So Candace called a lot of family members this week. Good job. What are you saying to them when you call them?
I am letting them know that I'm a realtor now, not a teacher. And a lot of them get into why did you leave teaching? So I have to go into all that.
Awesome.
But so once we get past that, then I just let them know that I'm the family realtor. You please come to me for all of your real estate goals and needs. And I'm here for you. And I also plan to send them my business cards on a regular basis to remind them I'm a realtor, not a teacher.
Yeah. So I love that. Who here has read the Bible? And when I say the Bible, I mean The Millionaire Real Estate Agent.
I have 2 copies of that.
There you go. So what that says, and the numbers have been updated since the hard copy was written, is that for every 10 people in your database who you keep in touch with 36 times per year, you will get one closing. Just 36 times, does that feel like a lot or a little? Donna, I saw you mouth something. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah, a lot for most people. They feel like it is.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to share, this is not contract to close, but I'm going to share some lead generation tips for you. Okay. So who wants to be on my 36 touch? I need a volunteer. All right, Donna. I'm going to add you as a contact. So Donna, your last name is. So hang on, let me go back. I'm in command. I went to contacts and I went to add contact. Your email, Donna?
Donna at Donna sells re.com.
I love that you have your own domain, girl. High five. What's your phone number?
410-274-1617.
Okay, so I can put your lead source, mark you as a lead, add you to my pipeline. We go to more information. What is your address?
2520 Sandy Mount, all one word.
Yeah.
There it is. That's it.
When is your birthday? Month and day is sufficient.
8/5.
And when did you buy your home?
April 1987.
Sorry, I just have to interrupt really quick. Donna, you and I share a birthday.
We do.
Yeah,
We
you
do.
guys put that together. And here's the deal. I need a day. I'm just going to put in April 15th because I doubt she remembers from 1987. And we have a thing called public records. You're a realtor, you can find it. So I'm going to create, because that's the bare minimum of the information that people like Sharon who work with me know, that it's not a contact if you don't have their contact information. Apparently I have a lot of
And
Donna.
Katrina is always saying how easy this is to collect.
And is it?
When
Sharon,
you've done it a while, it's much easier.
and how do you get good at something?
You do it over and over.
Practice.
Over and over. And I will get the limiting belief all the time that people don't want to give me their address. Donna, did you even question when I asked you?
No,
People don't. They question because we hesitate. When I said, and what's your address? You just gave it to me. So I'm going to go into smart plans. So first of all, it tells me that your neighborhood is Bollinger Road. Does that seem accurate?
that's what neighborhoods calls this area, but it's really not.
Is it?
That's
when I-
okay. It's,
the-
I'm in a very rural area, so yeah, that's good.
So if I go into my smart plans and I add you to a smart plan and I go to monthly neighborhood nurture. All right, I'm gonna add you to that 12 times. Now I'm gonna touch you 12 times. Add you to a smart plan, quarterly call plan. Now it's gonna tell me to call you every 90 days. What am I gonna talk about every 90 days? I don't know. I'll figure it out when I call you. I'm going to add you to birthday.
Do you have to call? Can you do something else?
So no, you do not have to call, but the first time my rule is you have to call. You're generally not going to have nearly as much of a relationship if you don't call. So what I would say is I'd be like, Donna, girl, I don't know what the heck I was thinking, but I went for a drive and I just drove right past your neighborhood. How are you? How's the family?
Oh, we're good.
Good. How kids doing well in school?
Yes.
Yeah.
Got a call from the nurse today, but yes.
Got a call from the nurse. Is everybody okay?
Yeah, she just banged her head on the desk.
Banged her head. What grades are they in again?
First, 5th, and 7th.
First, 5th, and 7th. Crazy. What about your parents? How are the parents?
They're deceased. They're fine. They're sleeping.
They're sleeping. Side note, my 3-year-old told me the other day, Mommy, the cicadas are under the ground and so is George Washington.
He's right.
He is not wrong. How's the job? How's work?
Oh, it's great. I love it.
So I'm not going to go much further with this, but this is FORD, FORD, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. People want to talk about themselves, so you ask them about that. You just have a conversation, and you find a reason to call. And again, you can totally make it up. I just saw somebody who looked like your doppelganger, so I decided to call you. I find that people cop out usually to texts, and there's nothing quite like a phone call. So add texts in there and put them on a quarterly text plan. So I've now got monthly neighborhood nurture. So that is 12 times quarterly call plan 4. That's now we're at 16. I put you on the birthday. Robert. You still on, Robert?
And
All right, Robert's here. Robert, how many people called you on your last birthday?
3.
3. Okay. How many people sent you a birthday card in the mail?
0.
0. So if somebody sent you a birthday card in the mail, do you think you would appreciate it?
I would love it.
Did you appreciate those 3 people who picked up the phone and didn't just post on Facebook for your birthday?
I did.
So all that is this is now telling me to send a handwritten note, make a phone call, post on social, send a text. Honestly, and the text that I send for that is the day after. How was your birthday? Did you have a good day? Because I called them on their birthday. So now I got 4 more. So I was at 12 plus 4 was 16 plus 4 is 20. I'm at 20 right now. And then I'm going to add to home anniversary. I am going to, it's going to tell me to send a card and make a phone call on their home anniversary. So now I'm at 22 of my 36. And when I go out here, and by the way, this is the account that I use to demo. So that's why I have so many overdue tasks, but it's going to tell me what to do. I can do what's due today. These are the people that I need to call today. That's it. It's because it's Nancy and Mitch's birthday. So I should call them both. And now, but the other piece that I love to do is client events. So I have a pie party. So we're running out of time. So I'm just gonna tell you instead of ask you. Pie party, Tuesday before Thanksgiving, give out pies to my clients and advocates. So 1, I send an email invitation. That's one touch. 2, I call them. I don't care if they responded to the email invitation. I'm going to call them and pretend like I don't know. Hey, I don't know if you saw my email, but the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, I just want to thank my clients and my advocates and have them and sponsor your Thanksgiving dessert. I'd love for you to come by Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Phone call, actual event, then follow up. That's 4. You do that 3 times, you're pretty much at 36 for the year. You're good to go.
When you say 3 times, what do you mean by the 3 times?
3 different events. So you could do a happy hour, could do an Easter egg hunt. You could do a, we used to have a party where we would have a live band and catered and a bartender. You could do, you could do any number of client events if you just look up client events. And I'm sure, what office are you with, Gwendolyn?
Preferred properties.
What preferred properties? All right. So you've got plenty of people at Preferred who do great events. Find somebody who does client events. That's my personal spin to it. Your 36 touch can be whatever you want it to be. But I just wanted to show you that it doesn't have to feel like you're not calling them 3 times a month. That would be creepy. I mean, unless it's your mom or your child, it's creepy to call somebody 3 times a month. But calling them once a quarter and then inviting them to a party and sending them an email and sending them a birthday card, that's not creepy. The goal is to stay in touch with your database and not be creepy. That's really the goal. All right. Any questions before we go? We got 120 seconds.
When you say sending out pies to clients and advocates, can you give me a couple of examples of what an advocate would be?
So I don't actually care if you'll ever buy or sell a house with me. I have a client, her name is Charlena. She's never bought or sold a house. She never will. She lives in a family house on family land. And she's probably sent 4 or 5 referrals a year. So I don't care. She's never been a client. She never will be a client. And when you say, I'm having a client appreciation party, some of those people be like, but I'm not your client, dude. Like, don't thank me for my business. I don't care. Assume that nobody is ever going to do business with you directly. They're only going to give you referrals. And that will help a lot. But a lot of people are like, I can't work my sphere because they all own their houses and they're not looking to make any moves. Did they know people? That's what I want. I much prefer your referrals than your business, because once you buy a house, when was the last time? I mean, think about Donna. She bought her house in 1987. I was 2. She's not buying a house anytime soon. Or if I kept in touch with her, I mean, she might now. She might decide she wants to, but her realtor from 1997 wasn't going to get more business out of Donna for a long time. And yet she probably has referrals. All right. Any other questions? Sorry for the fire hose, guys. I always have more to say than time to say it in. So if you guys need anything, Katrina Meistering, I'm the only one around in the entire world. I'm the TL in White Marsh, and I'm happy to help. You can always look me up in White Pages, and I know that they'll send out the recording from this as well. Great job, guys. All right. Have a good night, y'all.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.